Welcome to my podcast. Today I will be doing a NHL progress report of the off season for NHL teams. The Anaheim Ducks-D+. They traded Frederik Andersen for Jonathan Bernier. Haven't done anything significant to improve their team. They aren't much better. In fact, they got worse. They need first and second line left wingers, and they need to re-sign Hampus Lindholm and Rickard Rakell. Arizona Coyotes-B. The Coyotes quietly have been having a very good offseason this year. They signed Alex Goldowski and Jamie McGinn in free agency. They drafted Clayton Keller and Jake Chichurin in the draft this year in the first round. They were both top 10 picks before the draft, and they were really good prospects. What they need to re-sign Tobias Ryder, Michael Stone, and Connor Murphy. Boston Bruins, B-. They signed David Backes in free agency. This will be a good move in the short run, but it may hurt them in the long run as he signed for 5 years at $6 million. That is kind of a big contract, and for a player like Backes, that may come back to haunt them. They brought that Anton Khudobin and re-signed Jean-Michel Liles. Torrey Krug also was re-signed to a long-term deal. What they need is another puck-moving defenseman, as Jean-Michel Liles is going to cut it as a second-pair defenseman. So they need a top-four defenseman that's also a puck-moving defenseman. Buffalo Sabres, C+. They added Kyle Oposo and Dmitry Kulikov. Oposo is going to add some scoring punch to the team. Kulikov should chip in from the back end. There are question marks in goal, though. After Chad Johnson left in free agency, there are huge question marks in goal, as Robin Lehner last season was not healthy. If he does get injured again this year, who is going to step in to fill the void? Calgary Flames-C. They signed Troy Brouwer and Alex Chiasson in free agency. They traded for Brian Elliott, which is an improvement from last year's team, and they also drafted Matthew Tkachuk, who couldn't make the team out of camp. What they need to do is re-sign Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan to reinsure that their core is secure. Carolina Hurricanes-C. They added Tero Teravainen and Brian Bickle by a trade, and they signed Lee Stepniak and Victor Stahlberg as free agency. These additions should add some scoring punch that they needed to the team. Stahlberg's not going to score much, but Stepniak, Teravainen, Bickle's not going to score much at this point of his career, but he should add some depth to the team. What they need are some scoring forwards. Chicago Blackhawks, C-. To be fair, the Chicago Blackhawks did not have much cap to spend, so they couldn't really do much of free agency. But with the limited cap they had, they signed Brian Campbell in free agency. This is a big move because they couldn't sign anyone else. But he is going to help on defense, as he can be a second pair defenseman that's a puck moving defenseman, play on the power play, and he has playoff experience. So this is a big move. What the Blackhawks need is a top-line left winger to play with Hossa and Taves, and they also need a third-line left winger. Colorado Avalanche, C-. I'm not exactly sure what the Colorado Avalanche are doing right now. They re-signed Nathan MacKinnon. That's good. But they then signed Joe Coburn and Rocco Grimaldi as well as better tuning. These signings don't make too much sense. And they still don't know what to do with Gabriel Landeskog and Steve Duchesne. Matt Duchesne, sorry. As well as Tyson Barrie. So there's so much uncertainty up in the balance in Colorado. What the Avalanche need to do is get a top four defenseman as well as a second line left winger. Columbus Blue Jackets, C. They didn't make any major splashes this offseason, but they did re-sign Seth Jones to a long-term extension. This is a huge deal because this ensures that they'll at least have a good top pair. They also drafted Pierre-Luc Dubois with their number 3 pick. This is a good pick as Pierre-Luc Dubois is a beast. What the Columbus Blue Jackets need is a number 1 center. Dallas Stars, B. They improved their defensive core with the additions of Dan Hamhuis in free agency. They also locked up Jamie Benn long-term to a massive 8-year deal worth $9.5 million per season. This is a huge signing, as this ensures that Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin will at least play the next 4 years together in Dallas. What the Dallas Stars need is a number 1 goalie and a bottom pair defenseman, as well as a 4th line center to replace Vernon Fiddler. Detroit Red Wings, B-. They lost Pavel Datsyuk, but overpaid to re-sign Darren Helm and then signed Franz Nielsen in free agency. The Red Wings also signed Thomas Vanek in free agency as well. They need to address their needs, which is re-signing Danny DeKeyser and Peter Mrazek. These are 2 important young players that they need to re-sign. Edmonton Oilers, B-. Traded Hall for Larson. Then signed Lucic and drafted Puljujarvi. This actually makes the team better, as I'm sure any knowledgeable person would take both Lucic and Larson over one Taylor Hall. However, the defense still needs to be improved, as their top 4 is still relatively weak. So what they need is to get another top 4 defenseman. Florida Panthers, B+. They improved their defense tremendously by adding Keith Yandel and Jason Demers in free agency. Also added James Reimer as their backup to Luongo, which is actually a pretty smart move. They locked up Vincent Trocheck, Aaron Ekblad, and Riley Smith to a long-term deal. The Panthers are no joke now. They will be a legit contender next year. what the Florida Panthers need to do now is get rid of David Boland's contract and get a third line left winger. Los Angeles Kings, D+. The Los Angeles Kings lost Milan Lucic to free agency and have yet to find a replacement for him on the top line left wing. They re-signed Trevor Lewis and signed Teddy Purcell and Tom Gilbert in free agency, but these are just some depth signings. The Kings may have some locker room trouble this coming season, as they just stripped Dustin Brown of the captaincy. This may cause some trouble. So what the Kings need to do is trade Dustin Brown to avoid locker room trouble and get a top line left winger. Minnesota Wild C. They signed Eric Staal in free agency, which gives them a borderline number one center. But this is a huge gamble, as Eric Staal's game has dropped off tremendously. If this signing works, this will be a high risk, high reward. But if it doesn't, it will be a long season for the Minnesota Wild. What the Wild need to do is re-sign Matthew Dumba, and they also need to fill out their fourth line. Montreal Canadiens B+. They signed, first of all, start with the trade of PK Subban for Shea Weber. This is huge because getting Shea Weber gives them a solid defenseman that plays in all situations. Not that Subban isn't good, but Weber's just a steadier defenseman at this point of his career. They also signed Alexander Radulov as a free agent. Radulov is a guy that can score goals and is something Montreal desperately needs. They traded away Lars Eller, then promptly traded for Andrew Shaw and re-signed him to a long-term deal after the trade. Overall, the Canadiens are an improved team. What the Canadiens still need to do is add a second line left winger, though. Nashville Predators-B. They locked up Philip Forsberg to a long-term deal, and they traded Shea Weber for PK Subban. This trade shocked the hockey world. This actually works for both teams, but it's just a huge culture shock, as you never expect two star players of such high caliber to be traded for each other. But this actually works out good for the Predators, as they've been wanting to trade Shea Weber's long contract for so long. And they get a guy like Subban for him. New Jersey, what the Nashville Predators need is a bottom pair defenseman, a fourth line center, and they need to re-sign Cal Yarncroc. New Jersey Devils, A-. They traded Larson for Hall. Even though it is hard to give up your top defenseman on your team, who is, by the way, your best shutdown defenseman, you are getting a top 5 left winger in the NHL right now. You have to do this because the Devils need goal scoring more. They also signed Ben Lovejoy and Vernon Fiddler. These are some depth signings that will help the team. The Devils are definitely one of the most improved teams in the NHL. They also re-signed Devontae Smith-Pelly, Bew Bennett, Sergei Kalinin and John Morel, as well as Jacob Josephson. These will be important role players for them. And don't forget about locking up Kyle Palmieri to a steal of a contract. The Devils still need to re-sign Reed Boucher as well. And they need to get another top 4 defenseman. New York Islanders, B-. The New York Islanders have had a rough offseason. They lost 2 of their top players in Franz Nielsen and Kyle Oposo, but they managed to replace them with Andrew Ladd, and they also added Jason Chimera, and they brought back P.A. Parento. The Islanders did a good job of damage control here after losing 2 core pieces of their team. What the Islanders need is just to find the right line combinations, because they have all the right pieces in store. New York Rangers, D. The New York Rangers are the lowest graded team right now. They lost Keith Yandel and Eric Stahl as well as Dan Boyle. They haven't done anything to replace these players. They haven't re-signed Chris Kreider and have an aging core of players. They still have Rick Nash. Things aren't looking too good in the Big Apple. They did trade Mika Zibanejad for Derek Brassard, but that may be a step backwards, as Derek Brassard was one of their better players last year. They aren't replacing any of their impact players they lost. They lost Keith Yandel, Eric Stahl, and Dan Boyle. These are 3 really important players. In order to keep up in the Metropolitan Division, you need to have a really good, deep forward and defensive core. The Rangers right now have an aging team that isn't fast enough to keep up with the good teams in the Metropolitan Division. So if I were the Rangers, I would have to rebuild. You have to trade away your aging players and start from scratch and build around your younger players. Ottawa Senators, C-. The Ottawa Senators have been relatively quiet this offseason. For a team that didn't make the playoffs, you would expect them to be much more active, but the Ottawa Senators aren't. It's kind of mysterious why they've been so quiet, as there are many holes to the team, and they need to improve dramatically on their bottom 6 as well as their defense, but most noticeably goaltending. What they need to do is re-sign Mike Hoffman and Cody Ceci. Philadelphia Flyers, C+. The Philadelphia Flyers signed Dale Weiss and Boyd Gordon in free agency. These are solid depth signings. The Philadelphia Flyers will have Ivan Provorov on the team next year. He will likely be a top 4 defenseman on the team next year. The biggest issue for the Flyers last season was scoring. Depth scoring, that is. And that still hasn't been addressed. what they need to do is re-sign Braden Shen and get a top 6 left winger. Pittsburgh Penguins B. The Pittsburgh Penguins are the Stanley Cup champions from last year. Usually that means that some key players from the team need to be dealt. But that isn't the case for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Miraculously, the Pittsburgh Penguins have the same team from last year in the playoffs, minus Ben Lovejoy. What the Penguins need to do is re-sign Matt Cullen. San Jose Sharks A. The San Jose Sharks have improved their team tremendously. They signed Mikhail Bodker in free agency, as well as David Schlemko, and re-signed Thomas Hertl. The depth the San Jose Sharks will have next season is absolutely insane, and will undoubtedly turn them into a legit contender once again. What the Sharks need to do, though, is lock up Brent Burns. St. Louis Blues-C-. Even though they re-signed Jaden Schwartz to a very affordable contract, they signed David Perron, which is a questionable signing, and bet Carter Hutton as a backup. The biggest issue this offseason, though, is that they didn't trade away Kevin Shattenkirk yet. He's somehow on the team still. The longer this drags out, the less value Shattenkirk will have, and that's not good. So the Blues have to trade him as soon as possible. Another cause for concern is the Blues goaltending. Jake Allen has yet to prove that he is a number 1 goalie in the NHL, because they have been tandeming with Brian Elliott and Jake Allen for the past few years. So we don't know if Jake Allen is 100% ready for the number 1 job. Say he's not ready, the Blues could be in for huge trouble. What the Blues need is a number 1 center and a bottom pair defenseman. Tampa Bay Lighning-A. They locked up Victor Hedman, and Steven Stamkos was the top free agent this year and the most highly sought after free agent as well. For this alone, locking up Hedman and Stamkos, Steve Yzerman deserves an A. On top of that, he also locked up Alex Killorn to a long-term deal and re-signed Andrei Vasilevskiy. This is a very important signing because Vasilevskiy is going to be the goaltender going forward, as the Lightning are bound in cap space. So that means that Ben Bishop most likely is going to get dealt. What the Lightning still need to do is re-sign Nikita Kucherov. Toronto Maple Leafs B. Just drafting Austin Matthews gives them a good grade. He's going to be the number 1 center for the Leafs this season on opening night. He's definitely going to make the team much better. They also signed Matt Martin and Roman Polak in free agency. With the young, talented players that the Leafs will have in their lineup, they are undoubtedly much better than they were last season. So you can look forward to that, but don't look forward to the Leafs making the playoffs next year, because that will take another 3 years at least. What the Leafs need is their young players to develop quickly. Vancouver Canucks C+. They signed Louis Eriksson in free agency, which will help the secondary scoring. They traded for Erik Gudbranson, which will improve their defense. Even though the Vancouver Canucks improved their team, they still need to make more improvements on their team, as their top six is relatively weak. Most noticeably, their left wing on the top six. They need the top six left winger. And what they need is a scoring wingers, as their centers are pretty much set. Washington Capitals B. They traded for Lars Eller, which gives them depth at the center position, which is something the Capitals really needed. They also re-signed Marcus Johansson. The Caps are still one of the best teams in the NHL this season. What the Capitals need to do is re-sign Dmitry Orlov, and they need to fill out their bottom six. And last but not least, the Winnipeg Jets B+. They drafted Patrik Laine, second overall, and re-signed Mark Scheifele as well as Matthew Perreault. The Jets also signed Sean Matthias in free agency. The Jets look to be a team that really is going to pop up on some teams' radar next season, as they just added a player in Patrik Laine who is capable of taking over a game. He is going to be their go-to scorer, and they also add some young pieces that they already have there. The Jets may be ready for a playoff push next year. What they need to do is re-sign Jacob Trouba or trade him for valuable pieces that help the team. So that's the NHL offseason progress report and grades. Next podcast, I'll be reviewing NHL prospects.